Dear Esther, you might be asking why I'm writing you after all these years. I mean, it has been ages since we communicated this way. Well, it recently came to my attention that there is a game that carries your name. A game that takes place on a Scottish isle and is constantly addressing you. I think it would be a nice playthrough for you, and I wanted to tell you about it. I do not know what island. The name of the exact whereabouts do not get mentioned, just that it is a Scottish isle and one of the infamous barren Hebrides of Scotland. As soon as you get foot ashore, you feel the cold breeze and the urge to explore this place. This is also because you get greeted by a voice, who describes the state of an unknown man that visited the island and his state of being. He is not happy, to say the least. The unknown man is describing how no one seems to be able to live in this island for an extended period of time, and how it attracts desperate folks who do desperate deeds in desperate times. In the meantime, you are set to explore the island. Every dozen or so meters apart, the narration will kick in, and you know you're going the right way. Although there isn't really a wrong way. The island is big, but there's actually just one path you can take. Most of the scenery is not accessible, and when you fall off a cliff, you just reappear a few meters further. How convenient! There are 4 levels, with each level having a very distinct atmosphere. I will not spoil how each level is built up, but especially the 3rd level, which is inside the island, is a beautiful experience to explore. But what will you do in these 4 levels? Well, you walk. And you read or listen to the narrator. Look around and notice this beautiful island, and that's it. There is no real gameplay. It is just walking. As I said earlier, you cannot perish. You cannot fail. You can just get lost and walk the wrong way. And if you happen to walk the wrong way, you will notice how beautiful barren the island is. These islands are around the pole circle, and there are very little trees here. There are bushes, grasses and rock plants though. They flower with bright colors, and the ever-present winds are making sure that the vegetation never stops moving. It's beautiful, and it feels like the island is real. Every corner of the island feels unique, and every rock seems to have a purpose. It feels like a holiday. And how would you imagine that these Scottish islands look like in reality? Not just the details in the graphics are amazing, so is the soundtrack. To be honest, I didn't really pay attention to it, and the soundtrack is not too much on the foreground, but when there is something special to see, there is a nice audible spectacle to hear as well. Dear Esther, you might be wondering how this game compares with other games. Is it any good? Well, the graphics are outstanding. I never saw a game with such realistic made graphics. Even though the game is made in 2016. Actually, it was made earlier, but I will tell you more about this later. I intensely enjoyed just taking a stroll in this virtual place. Just walking around, taking in the sea air and listening to the noise of nature and the violins of the soundtrack. On the other hand, that's all this game has to offer. Walking a linear path for about 3 hours and listening to the story that the narrator has to tell. Well, actually 90 minutes. The second part of the journey is the commentary of the writer, composer and art director. These 3 individuals started this game as a mod of the game Half-Life 2 in 2008. Then they made a PC standalone remake in 2012. And at last the landmark edition for consoles in 2016. They look back on the process of making the game, which can be very interesting, and in this case it is, occasionally. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy it when one of the developers points out a detail in the game and tells a story about its history. What I did not enjoy was the unabashed boosting of them. Telling how much they enjoyed each other's work and how great the music was, how unique and cinematic the gameplay and how unique the story is. It is something I do not like when people do it in real life, and I also do not like it here. If you want to praise someone, it's fine, but don't overdo it. Especially not because the writing here, in my opinion, really misses its mark. In my previous review I played Drowning, a game that I praised because it took a very difficult subject, depression, and made it simple to understand and engaging without it losing its weight. I really wanted to know what would happen next. In this case, the story is partly about depression as well. It is written in such a way that there can be several interpretations. Normally, I would like this, but it feels disjointed in this case. It feels more like the developers do not really know where to go and what to do with this story. Like they just half-assed threw some mystical elements together. Actually, to understand more of the story, I was looking on Wikipedia what they thought that the story was. And I found out there's nothing clever here. Even when you read the Wikipedia section of the story of the game, you still do not know what it is actually about. These are big flaws. Nonetheless, I do recommend this game for someone who wants a very relaxed experience. If you just ignore the story elements and focus on the beautiful world that is created, you will enjoy the game. Do not as I did and do not try to make sense of all of it. That's my conclusion, dear Esther, and I hope that you enjoyed my letter and that you can make sense of this whole endeavor. I actually think that this would be a perfect pastime for you as well, since these months you can travel. In this case, I do recommend playing Dear Esther. So, this was my review of Dear Esther, the walking simulator. Actually, this is the first walking simulator that used that term, walking simulator. Very interesting. Just a bummer that the story is, well, underwhelming. Maybe you noticed it, but I recorded the footage with my new capture card, so I can record in 60 FPS now. Also, the recording process is simpler, so I can record easier, yeah. That's a very good thing. Can you see the difference? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe and do all those things. Have a great day. Bye bye.